This is Jonathan Hickman, and you are listening to 11 O'Clock Comics.
Stellar. It's like you're excited or something.
Could be a little bit.
I don't get it. You should be excited every episode.
Yeah. I think doing them both at the start will also prevent any fatigue or like, oh my god, I gotta do it again after an hour. Because
that may be a little bit.
That's a lot of. That's a hard work. That's
right.
Schlep.
Yeah, maybe a little too inside baseball for them people listening at home.
I forgot.
It's okay. They kind of love us. We can do whatever we want.
That's true.
In theory, right?
And if the episode's shorter and we get new people, they're going to learn to love us. So,
well, fingers crossed.
Right.
Hey, everybody. It's 11 O'Clock Comics, episode 888. Wow.
Ooh.
Yes. And I am Vince B.
You are Vince B. And I am David A. Price.
Indeed. And I am Hazel the Rabbit.
Okay. You're not Hazel the Rabbit, though. You're Jason Wood, everybody. Here on the first of our... But I don't want to say bi-weekly because it's not bi-weekly. It's twice weekly. Twice weekly episodes. You're going to get us 2 times a week. Isn't that great? I don't know. Depending on how you feel. I'm excited. I hope you are too. And all of this here, shenanigans, is brought to you by cheapgraphicnovels.com. cheapgraphicnovels.com. If you want omnibus editions, trade paperback collections, manga, OGNs, there's only one place to go where the prices are super low, and that's cheapgraphicnovels.com. Do a little bit of searching, a little bit of Googling, investigating. Go to Amazon, check the price of things, and then go back to cheapgraphicnovels.com, and you will see that you will pay less at CGN. It's science. And once you place your first order, you will receive an email confirmation saying, hey, thanks a bunch for ordering. You're going to reply to that email confirmation. Why? Because Max is going to give you free shipping on your second order if you say 11 O'Clock Comics sent me. It's crazy. So it's another layer of savings. It's like a delicious pound cake with some creamy, delicious icing on top of it. Just go to cheapgraphicnovels.com.
Do it.
Yeah. Who wants to pay more than you have to?
For real, though.
Crazy.
That's dumb.
Yeah. I got a lot to talk about this week. So let's just blaze through the drink roll call. I have beer.
Okay.
I got some beer.
Of course you do. Yeah.
All right. This thing is called, it's from Mutant Brewing. And it's called Mutant Serum.
Where are they located?
That's a really good question.
Okay.
Mutant Brewing is in Pittston, Pennsylvania.
There you go.
Wow.
Where all the mutants hang out.
It's true. Pennsylvania's loaded with mutants. Never saw a piece of wood they didn't want to turn into a Trump sign. But this is... Seriously, I can carve that thing. This is... I don't know what the ABV is on this. 6.5. Nah, so not a whole lot. But it's kind of funny because they use the NFT monkey thing that was going around, but they totally obliterate it. It's got like cyber parts and things hanging off it, and there's hot dogs in it, and it's just really weird. So I'm thinking it's a tongue-in-cheek condemnation of the whole NFT thing, which is good and appropriate because the beer is as well. Very good.
Nice.
Excellent. Well, I wish I could match your wonderful choice, but I'm merely having some strawberry bubbly.
Okay. I have decided to go with a nice, refreshing gin and tonic this evening.
Ooh. Hoity-toity.
Yeah.
Your pinkies out and everything?
Always.
Love it.
Not
Love
just
it.
thinking.
I have something specifically for Jason.
Oh boy.
Yep.
Okay.
But it needs an introduction. So I'm kind of going to hand it off to our buddy, Tony Fleece. Thank you, Tony. You know what that means, Jason, right? I have a Marvel book.
Of course you do.
Yes. This is another in the chain of slightly annoying conceptual a trend that Marvel has adopted for their black and white books with the accent color of red. They used to be called black, white, and red, but now they're called black, white, and blood, which I find it kind of infuriating, because if the red was only used for blood, then conceptually it would make sense, right? But the red is not only used for blood. It's an accent color. So there's been a bunch of these things. There's been a Moon Knight, an Elektra, a Deadpool, a Wolverine. There's a ton of them. But this is called Marvel Zombies. Black, white, and blood. And as with all anthologies, it's a mixed bag, to be sure. There are a trio of what I think are exceptional stories, and then there's a bunch of stuff. Garth Ennis has a story in this, but unfortunately he was saddled with what I consider a not great visual stylist. So unfortunately I won't be talking about the Garth Ennis story, but Garth Ennis is a part of this. I just don't like to discount an entire series because all of the stories aren't of the same strength, let's just say. The highs are very, very high on this miniseries. And I'm going to tell you about 3 stories. I won't be super dense because, I mean, it's Marvel Zombies. There's not a whole lot on which to chew, pun intended. But this 4-issue mini is written and illustrated by a bunch of people. First of all, it's the story in the first issue called Hope. This is going to rip David's world apart. It's written by Alex Segura with art by Javi Fernandez. And it's a Spider-Man tale. Ooh. So Spider-Man's in the Daily Bugle offices, and he's defending Jonah and a bunch of Daily Bugle employees from waves of ravenous zombies. Shit hits the fan. Daily Bugle offices are inundated by zombies. And Peter's trademark optimism is wavering, to say the least. Especially after he's attacked by a zombie Betty Brant. Now, if you're a Spider-Man fan, you know that Betty was his first love, right? Mm-hmm. And not long after Betty, but he's attacked by Robbie Robertson, the one person that was in his corner at the Daily Bugle. So he's shaken, right? Spidey gets Jonah and company to relative safety. All the while, he's thinking, "Oh man, I hope that MJ and Aunt May are okay. Like, oh, Aunt May, please be okay." And he's exhausted because he's one guy trying to fight off all these zombies. And so he pings the Avengers for backup. And they're busy, right? And something hits him from behind. It's a zombie Aunt May. And what little was left of Peter's hope is completely gone. He can't fight back. She keeps screaming, "Where's Peter? Where's my nephew Peter? What have you?" Because remember, Aunt May doesn't know, or at least in this reality, Aunt May doesn't know that Peter and Spider-Man are one and the same. And she's pummeling him. She's like, "What have you done with Peter?" And she's beating the crap out of essentially her nephew. And Peter takes off the mask. and he shows her his true identity, right? And she begs him to kill her.
Oh.
Yeah, she's like, kill me, just kill me, and he does, and it's over. It's over for Peter. The that trademark Parker optimism is completely gone, and the story does not end well. So that's gut wrenching, but it's not the worst of the gut wrenching stories. In issue number 2, there's a story called "Under the Eye of an Unkind Future," which was written by Gail Simone. So you know you're in good hands. Very talented writer. Illustrated by Dale Eaglesham.
Ooh.
Yes. And Dap, what do you think, or who do you think is the focus of this story? If you could have your choice, Dale Eaglesham doing a Marvel story, what do you think he's illustrating? What would you want him to illustrate?
Knowing oh man, I like his style, so I'm thinking somebody big,
Hint:
bombastic.
He's done the book before.
Thing?
Close. Fantastic Four.
Oh, so just the group as a whole. Okay.
It is a Fantastic Four story illustrated by Dale Eaglesham with color art by Yen Nitro. I love that name. And the focus is Reed Richards, appropriately enough, because he has he's made a calculation. He has 7 days in which to stop the zombie plague. Doesn't do it in 7 days, it's all over. So he builds a structure called the Spire, which is a giant tower with no steps. For the specific purpose, doesn't want the zombies getting in while he's working. So he's out of harm's reach while he tries to science the zombies away, right? Says his goodbyes. He gives Ben, a loving send off. He's like, you were the best friend I didn't have many friends, but you were my best friend. And then he tells Johnny, the man you've turned into, it's like I have nothing but pride and respect for you. And he gives Susie, a hug, and he gets cracking. And he's got Herbie at his side. And every action is precision timed. He can't waste time. He's got to solve this within 7 days. So how long he eats and bathes and talks to his children, he can't waste a second. Everything is just timed right down to the microsecond. It's Reed, right? You would expect this. Which is why he gets completely pissed off when Tony Stark calls him. And Tony's like, Reed, we lost the Mole Man. The Mole Man has been turned. And his minions. Like, it's bad. And Tony starts to talk about something involving the Super Scroll. And Reed's like, Tony, I don't have time for this. Like, don't call me back. This is over. So it's a series of days. Like day 1, he's trying to get to the root of the problem. And it proceeds apace. On day 4, Eureka! He figures it out. It's the cosmic rays. The cosmic rays that created the Fantastic Four altered his metabolism so radically that any infection that enters his system is reduced to a crawl. So he's like, I got it. We're going to bombard humanity with cosmic rays. And he's telling Tony this. Tony calls back. He's telling Tony this, and Tony's like, yeah, but the thing with the Super Scroll, like, I'm sorry. And Reed's like, no, this is it. I got it. It turns out the Fantastic Four fought the Super Scroll, who was turned, and it killed everybody but Reed. And the people, the first part of the story, when Reed was saying goodbye to his loved ones, there was no one there. That's fucked up. That is completely fucked up. And it's just like, kill me now, right? There's no happy endings in the Marvel Zombies universe, right? Last but not least, I think this is the one reason you should actually check out this series because it is written and drawn by a consummate craftsman, Steve Scroce.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's called Strange Ass Bedfellows with color art by Brian Reber. It's basically a tale of Blade, the vampire hunter, and his trusty sidekick, Rick Jones. Like, what is happening? They're on their way to a place called the Sanctuary, which is the world's only safe haven from the zombie plague. It's a self-sufficient city behind an impenetrable force field. And the title, Strange Ass Bedfellows, points to the people in control that are maintaining the city. Definitely not a group Blade would have worked with in the past, because those in charge in the city are vampires. And Blade has made an agreement that to take the last vestiges of humanity as blood bags, basically, to get into the city. So he, on one hand, he's saving, in quotes, these people, but on the other, they're just going to be, an all-you-can-eat buffet for the vampires. Dark shit. Like, that is crazy. But Scroce's art, oh my God. I don't know what kind of continuity there is here, because the opening salvo, Blade just eviscerates Reed Richards, just tears him apart. And it proceeds. There's a number of encounters, but there's a Mad Max Fury Road type travel to the city, and they're being attacked, and I can't get the blood bag thing out of my mind. That's part and parcel of Fury Road, right? But I just thought the series was really good. Like I said, the highs were great. It would have worked a lot better if it was a oversized one-shot instead of 4 issues where you could just trim the crap. And there's a story in there where Proud Star one-on-one beats Cable. Like, really? That would never happen. And
hilarious that's what you take issue with.
No, it's just silly. Like Cable's turned and Proud Star takes him out. And it's like, yeah, right, not in any universe, my friend. But the art on that was okay. But that's my main problem with the other stories. The art is not up to the standards of Scroce or Eaglesham or Javi Fernandez. They're really very talented visual stylists, and I don't want to demean the other ones, but if you have a book with such standout artists as these, and then you surround it with, let's be honest, lesser talents, like the whole series suffers. Just make it let's do a little bit of curation here, and it's not a Marvel tryout book, right? There should be a standard by which you want to get in the door, you got to be this good. And a couple, well, more than a couple, are not. So, buyer beware. Marvel Zombies, Black, White, and Blood. The 3 stories I talked about are very, very good. And I enjoyed it immensely.
Love it.
Yeah.
Jason, do you want to talk about Ultimate Spider-Man #1?
I mean, I'll chime in with y'all. I mean, I don't have a ton to say on it, but if you guys want to talk it up, I'm definitely here to.
Well, I know Vince does it. No, it wasn't going to be my main, but figuring that it just came out this week. Like I said to you guys, and this is probably, well, okay. Like Vince said on the main Slag, I also have seen Marco look a little smoother, look a little better. I don't know if maybe he's doing switching things up so he can maybe maintain a schedule. If this is a deliberate switch.
It did look a little rushed. I mean,
yeah. So
unfinished in some spots, even.
Yes.
Yeah.
The bones are still there. I can still tell it's him because of the faces, things like that. But yeah, it wasn't as clean as his Punisher work with Rucka or even his Phasma stuff from the Star Wars books. So, I mean, art, Marco, I'm fine with that. It was an exercised issue, which is, always nice to see when you want to start. But my and this is the Ultimate Universe. I dig alternate reality, so I mean that's fine. I like some of the switches that they made, and as far as who's alive and maybe who's not. But I think probably my biggest nit to pick would be that it's the first issue of a new Spider-Man book, and we never see Spider-Man. We almost sort of kind of see Spider-Man on the last page, but it's not like we get a full-blown swinging through the city Spider-Man. I would have liked to have seen that, but setting up whatever they have planned, I really wasn't bothered by it. I went in with low expectations, thinking that I'm going to give him benefit. I'm going to give him a shot, but chances are it may be close to a whiff, and I'm not looking forward to what's going to happen by the time I get to the end of the issue. But I got to say, I was pleasantly surprised by. If you want to say the book is boring, fine, but the setting things up, I'm interested to see where they're going. I'll probably check out the second issue just to see how things land, or how they're going, how they're preparing to have things land. But I wasn't. I can't say I was really all that bothered by first issue.
Go ahead, Vince.
No, I think you're much more lenient than I. I just thought it was a bunch of talking heads.
Yes,
it didn't hook me either way. I thought that he included the things one would expect to see in a Spider-Man universe, like we had a Green Goblin cameo and a Kingpin cameo, and the major detriment for me going in is how mired in event level continuity this book is. For a first issue, it's all predicated on that ultimate,
whatever the hell happened,
whatever it was called, that ultimate thing that he just did, where if a Marvel event hits the direct market and doesn't make a sound, did
it really happen?
Why would you tie the origin, one of the best written, most memorable origin stories of any superhero, to a lackluster, weak event? Right? I don't think there's a lot of fidgeting one needs to do with the origin of the Amazing Spider-Man. It's near perfect.
Right.
There's only one better, and that's Superman. Right? And better, I think, is a relative term in
sure.
this. Is it better? Depending on the time of the week or my mood, I would vacillate between the two. But Spider-Man is I know my love for the Fantastic Four notwithstanding, Spider-Man is the poster child for the Marvel Universe, and it makes sense to start off this endeavor with an Ultimate Spider-Man. That's great. But there was nothing, and there was no nostalgia to this. There was no revelation. There was no novel take on the origin. It was just, it just is. Mm-hmm. And that's not, I mean, there's so much out there to read that I'm not giving Hickman the benefit of the doubt. I'm just not reading it. I read this first issue and okay, nice try. I don't need to see anything beyond this first issue. Call me, a hardliner, but there's plenty of other things to occupy my time. I don't need to.
Of course.
Yeah.
Remind me, did you read Ultimate Spider-Man? I can't remember.
Oh, yeah, for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah, because he loved Crackle Gwine.
Yeah.
And do you think, looking
That's
back
not
on
nice.
it, that part of the reason you like the original Ultimate Spider-Man is because it was basically a retelling of the origin, give or take, that we already knew?
It was the give or take part that I enjoyed. The thing that really kept me reading it was not so much Bendis's writing or Bagley's pencils. It was Richard Eisenhower. I really liked what he did I think he was a beautiful accent to Bagley's pencils. And no, I thought that it was a memorable take. Let's reduce Peter back to, teen-ish years, and the fact that Kitty Pryde focused into, like, it was fun. It was a fun, more or less, a fun book that revisited a lot of old chestnuts, but in a new way, right? I thought the Goblin was cool. Like, they definitely didn't rehash anything with the Goblin. It was a neat spin on the Green Goblin. I enjoyed it. It may have gone on a little bit too long, but I liked it. This is just, I thought this was tepid. There's some really good drawing in it, but for the most part, it was just a bunch of people sitting around talking, and no.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I mean, I was the one. I mean, I had no intention of reading this, but then we got to discussing it and its merits, and I thought, okay, well, I'll read it. So I guess I went in with absolutely no expectations, and I came away. I thought it was fine. Like, I didn't really have any issues with it because, like we've said a couple times now, it's a new take on Spider-Man. I mean, we don't have to spoil the whole thing, but the premise is that in this world, Peter is, married with kids and 40-ish, and he's never been Spider-Man.
And that was the one part where when he's talking to MJ and he's talking about needing a change, it read to me up to that point, or before I got to the end of the book, that almost as if he had given up being Spider-Man. And this was a calling for him. He needed to go back to it. Whereas in actuality, he never was. And he's getting bit eventually, but I just wasn't sure. And again, because this is my first time reading this new Ultimate Universe, I wasn't quite sure what exactly that conversation, like what there was unspoken words going on between the two of them, being as married for as long as they are, knowing each other as long as they have. So they were able to read between the lines that I wasn't, but like I read that and I need to change. Oh, okay, so you need to go out swinging again, and that's what I was expecting. But as I keep reading, I'm like, well, then that doesn't. I'm not quite sure how that conversation they were having really. It definitely played out differently in my head than it was whatever Hickman was writing for them to be saying, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's one of those things where, like, I think it was fine. It's not though something I'm clamoring to like pick up. I mean, it's not my job to be a marketing executive for Marvel, but I do wonder with something like this, where I thought it was perfectly like well executed, but I think of myself like I'm not like who when they're planning to reboot the Ultimate Universe again, like who's that for? Because yeah. I mean, in many ways, it's a reboot. It's like a rebirth of the original in many ways. I mean, now this it seems like the status quos aren't going to be quite aligned, but at least with this Peter thing. But certainly, like you got the Maker, who's the main villain from the. I mean, it's like there's certainly some overlap, or at least they're trying to pull. And I just wonder, like, just like we were, the Ultimate Universe people, the kids that came into the Marvel Universe during the Ultimate line, are grown ass men now and women now too. And I wonder, like, do they care about going back? I mean, if they stuck around comics, I suspect going back isn't all that interesting. And then if it's designed to pull new readers in, I just think it's like a fallacy that there's college age kids that are just clamoring for an alternative take to the Marvel Universe, because why would they even know to ask that, right? Like, they just want to, if they're interested in comics about these characters, chances are, unless they already knew about it from their parents or something, like they actually want to pick up a comic that's fun and action packed and reminds them of the movies. Like, that's what they want, right?
Well, that's essentially what the Ultimate Universe is,
or
was.
What it was.
Yeah, that's what it was.
This clearly isn't.
No,
right?
no, not at all.
So it's like it's again. I'm not even like I have no issue with the comic, honestly, but I don't. I just it makes me wonder, like, who is this for? Like, because it's not different enough that theoretically are going to capture like young readers that wouldn't want to read Spider-Man anyway. And then, in point of fact, as we've already said, this is a story of a bunch of older people. It's literally a story where, Jonah and his partner, who shall remain nameless, are basically starting anew in their 70s, and Peter is a 40-year-old dad. Like it's a very and it's not action packed, like you said. So this first issue is, I mean, as you think about it, it's pretty much geared towards like older men and women, right? Like it's like it's a book designed and written and with the aesthetic and the pacing of someone more like our age than a 20-year-old kid, right? So I'm like, okay, but we're already here. Like if I'm picking up Ultimate Spider-Man #1 today or this week, it's because I'm already a comic fan. So like you're not bringing me in. I'm already here. It's just a weird thing. I don't like. It feels like they don't. If the attempt was to create something totally new, theoretically to bring in new comic readers, I don't know how this does that.
But even so, then those unicorns, those hypothetical new readers, if they come to the store and they're like, "Oh, Ultimate Spider-Man #1," it's all on the comic book retailer to say, "Wait a minute, this is a first issue, but you need to know more than what's in this issue going in. You need to read this thing that I don't even think is collected yet. That previous Hickman Ultimate thing that came out, like,
Ultimate.
Yeah. So, I mean, so how is if I wanted to read something and they said, well, you got to read these 5 issues before, whatever it was, going in, I'd be like, well, no, I'm done. I'm just not gonna read those. I love Spider-Man. I don't want this weird Reed Richards kid thing destroying what is that? Just give me Peter. That's why I'm here. But again,
it's interesting. Marvel and DC are so different in that regard too, right? DC always, I mean, it's in the DNA of most of the main characters to have follow predecessors and successors,
Yeah.
But Marvel never really set that up.
No, I mean,
and every time they do, anytime a legacy character passes the torch, it always goes back.
True.
Yeah.
I mean, look at DC now with Superman. Every issue is Superman family. Every issue. Like he's got a whole posse now. And
it's again.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I mean, Superman family was fun back in the day because they were all of the Superman and associates, but they were individual stories. Like, I don't want to see them all together. Superman doesn't need a posse. He's Superman. And granted, I know I haven't read the books, but when I see 8 characters on the front of a book with Superman, like, unless it's an earth-shattering event, something's up. Like, it just reeks of marketing. To me.
Yeah. Right. Well, yeah. I mean, we've all had this conversation many times.
Right. And I'm not saying the stories are bad, good, whatever. I'm indifferent to them because I see the gears in the machine. I don't want to see the gears. I just want to read a story about, again, debatable, the world's greatest superhero, at least the first greatest superhero, right? I'm coming for Superman. I'm not coming for Jonathan. I know it's part of the deal now. And all these other characters, I just want to read a really fun, good Superman story without all the baggage, and you can't have that now. But that's a problem with both of the companies, because if you want to read a Spider-Man story, there's like 16,000 different Spider books out now. What do you read? Which one is the one for you? I don't know. I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's kind of one of the reasons I stopped wanting to do the previews videos, because like you do the DC Connect catalog and there's 35 different Gotham related titles, and then you do the Marvel and it's 15 Spider related books, and then no shade to you, I know you like them, but like another 8 to 10 symbiote books. I mean, there are 8 to 10 symbiote books out a month. That's not an exaggeration. Like, that's incredible.
Yeah, they're not all good. I mean, surprise, they're not.
But to me, it's not about are they good or not. Like, I think about that with Batman most. Batman's the most egregious in this regard. But like, again, who are these comics for? Even the most die-hard people, which are people like us and people listening to this show, how many of us at this point in our lives in our reading cycle would buy 15 different Bat books in a month and read them, or 10 Spider-Man books and read them, right? Because we would know, as we do, that some of them aren't going to be very good, right? Like, and sure, you maybe could pick some. So I'm not saying, I'm sure lots of people read 7 or 8 different Bat books a month, and I'm sure lots of people read that many Spider books, and more power to them. But we're talking a small number of a small number. It's like they flood the market with their product, but then how does that help them sell the product as an evergreen status? Because it's like, I walk into a store, I haven't read Superman in a while. No, not Superman's a bad example. I haven't read Batman in a while. What Mr. Store Clerk? What should I be reading? I mean, 9 times out of 10, right? Like, if they're an engaged clerk, they may say, well, what other Batman stories did you most like? Right, in an ideal world, right? They'd say, what were your favorites? And you tell them, and he could maybe point you. But the reality is, if you come in like that, they're probably like, oh yeah, well, there's Batman, there's Detective. And they might say, like, I really like the Tom King run of it, right? Like, they're just going to kind of give you the main titles, right? So it's like these specific ones that are by this creator or this miniseries or whatever, who are they for? Like, how are you selling that to someone that's not specifically, having read the solicit, wants that, right? Like, I just don't get it. Right. Again, it's like, it's not like if there's one, like, kind of like C or D title on the side, so you can maybe sell them like, oh, this is quirky, because there are 15 different books each month that most aren't really connected. So, like, I don't know, again, who they're for. And that's a big reason why I've really lost my love for most superhero comics in Marvel and DC, because I like, if you're going to give me 15 things, great, but make it 15 totally different, really well done things. I don't know.
But it's a problem. It's a problem with the retailing side, where a responsible retailer is not exactly what I would classify as a good retailer, right? A responsible retailer is going to tell you, oh, these books all have their pluses, right? There's something good about all of these titles, depending on what you're looking for. But that's not what I want to hear. Like, I want to hear, don't read this, man. It's not good. But that is not going to benefit the retailer. He's going to lose money. Like, show me a retailer that does not want to sell you something. Right? Yeah. Where, I mean, I'm friendly with the local guy, and he'll tell me, like, no, just stay away from that. But that's not a responsible retailer, because now he's losing money. But he knows me that I'll, the gravy train's still going to keep rolling, because if I don't read that, chances I'm going to read something else. But if somebody comes in off the street and it's like, what Bat book should I be reading? A responsible retailer will say, well, this is what it's good about this book, and this is what's good about this book. And even if the book isn't great, they will find something in order to grease the wheels to you, unleashing some cash, right? So I wouldn't want to be a retailer, because I can't tell you anything other than the truth. Like, I have this weird thing about the truth. The truth is the truth. And if I think a book stinks, I'm going to tell you straight up, I don't like this book at all. I sell it, but I don't like it at all. And here's why you shouldn't read it. That's not doing me any good. It's doing the reader or the customer a solid by not having them expend money on something that is not as good as the other examples featuring this character. But how do you approach it as a retailer? What do you do? That's why I'm not behind the counter, right?
Well, the answer is they don't carry most of these books.
They just order enough to fulfill their pull lists.
Yeah, right. Whatever. Yeah. And so they just don't order them. And there used to. It wasn't that long ago. I mean, certainly when I was going to a shop on a regular basis, they had every Marvel and DC book always, right? Like because that's just the way it was. There were always copies on the shelf. So, like, now they're at a point where, I mean, like, I know the guys at Challengers, they were talking about this a few months ago. I think there were 10 different Batman books that they don't carry. And, like, it's no one ever cares about. Like it's, you know what I mean? Like no one ever walks in and is frustrated that didn't have it.
Now, see, that's a good retailer.
Well, sure. I
Right.
mean,
Because
they won an Eisner for being best retailer, and
right. Their omission is a vote against that book, so
Yes.
they don't think it has the quality that they require in their retailing, so they don't order it. Like that makes sense.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you know, if somebody wants it, I'm sure they'll get it just to fulfill that.
Oh,
order.
no, right. They'll have it for club. That's they always talk about like what they call a club. They have, you know, a subscription club. But yeah, they'll the only copies they have of most comics these days are pull copies. What we used to call pull lists, right? Like that's and that wasn't because that's how they want to do it, but that's how they have to do it to survive, because they cannot. If a comic doesn't sell in the first 3 weeks it's on the shelf, it's basically a loss for them,
right?
Because people aren't walking into the store anymore looking to buy modern back issues unless they're slabbed, right? Or some kind of crazy variant. So that's just lost money. Retailers just have to basically give those away or fire sale them at some point.
Yeah, it kind of hurts my heart in a sense, because I'm more attuned to the aesthetic, the art side of things, and art and commerce, strange bedfellows, right? Where a book that I think is just phenomenal and wonderful is probably not going to grab a large chunk of the buying public. So it's, my heart goes out to all the retailers that they have to walk this really fine line of commerce and aesthetics. And it's tough. It's a tough place to be. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, just to clarify, I didn't think Ultimate Spider-Man #1 was a bad issue. I mean, Hickman is a great writer. See, even slouching, his books are of a certain standard above a lot of other people's books. But it's not the type of Spider-Man that I want to read.
Oh, I get that. Yeah.
Yeah, I keep searching. I mean, hopefully
one
one day.
It's no. I mean, at least we knew. You know, Reign was a limited series, and that was designed at the time. It felt like it was finite, it was definitive, and that's like the last Spider-Man story. And obviously, I think Harry's coming out with a part 2, but
more people.
You know, we've seen older people, we've seen an older Peter, we've seen a married Peter, like Raj said. This gave Renew Your Vows vibes, and I get that. Yeah, it's. I've always viewed the Ultimate Universe. I didn't really get in on the ground floor with the Ultimate Universe because I already read my Spider-Man. I grew up with that version, so I didn't need the new one to entice me to read a Spider-Man book. But as cool as the concept was, but I just look at it as almost like a what if, and I can, if I can compartmentalize it that way, it's the spoonful of sugar. But I mean, would this replace this? I wasn't planning on doing this, but it's not. This isn't a threat to me enjoying Miles Morales. If I only have one Spider-Man book, it's going to be Miles right now. So I mean, it's not like Ultimate Spider-Man was going to dethrone it. Even Superior Spider-Man is struggling against it. So I just, I gave it a shot because it's Spidey, and because like Jason alluded to, there was the conversation on the Slack about it. So I at least wanted to be kind of aware of what's kind of going on in the zeitgeist. But it is what it is. And like I said, I'll probably flip through the second issue when I see it at the shop just to see if my feelings may change, or if it zigs when I thought it was going to zag. But we'll see. If you're enjoying it, absolutely. I think it's great. I am going to check out the first issue of the Black Panther book because I like Stefano Caselli's artwork.
Who doesn't?
I know. I don't know about the other. What's the third one? I think. But anyway, yeah. I read it. Glad I read it. But and it ended up being slightly better than I thought it was going to be. So it's a win in that regard.
I think the first round of the Ultimate Universe was lightning in a bottle.
Sure.
It struck at a time when the regular titles were slagging a bit. Marvel was not at the top of their game, and this thing came along that somehow managed to capture the attention of a whole bunch of people. And so it just put a lot of gas in the Marvel tank for years. And like I said, I think it was the success was surprising, I bet, to the people even at Marvel, that these books managed to catch on as strongly as they did. I remember back in the day that the Ultimate books were the ones that everybody wanted. Like that was the thing. And the regular titles, the Avengers were not in a good place, and Amazing Spider-Man wasn't firing on all cylinders. So you had these alternate takes that managed to capture what we loved about the originals, but in a new and novel and updated way. But I don't think that's what this is. This is just. It's novelty in a sense that tries to recapture something that was unplanned to begin with. Mm-hmm. So it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we always, like you said, we always come back and try. I mean, I am low key hopeful for Spectacular Spider-Man, which was solicited this month. It's coming out in a few months. It's Humberto Ramos drawing both Peter and Miles together for the first time. I love that. That sounds like a Spider-Man comic I could be into. So I'll give it a try, and hopefully it's what I'm looking for, and I'll read that.
That sounds like a license to print money.
Yeah. Well,
especially Humberto.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'll give it a look.
Well, when you say for the first time, you mean Humberto drawing them together for the first time?
No, it's the first time they're in an ongoing series together.
Oh, an ongoing. Okay, all right.
Yeah,
but that all is tied to the video game, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely. I just finished Spider-Man 2 a few days before I saw the solicit, and I thought, oh, no, that's brilliant timing.
Yeah. Hey, if it's a success and it spirals out of a video game, who cares, right? I mean, if the game was the impetus to releasing a really good book that everybody seems to enjoy, who am I to say? Right.
And I like that it's in universe in 616 and not the Gamerverse, because I haven't read not one of any of those comics or novels.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Same. Well, there you go.
Although I was gifted a novelization of the first Spider-Man game. Haven't read it yet, but I have it.
So what else do we have, Jason?
Well, Vince, next week we have a big episode coming up. Do we not?
I do believe we do.
We have 2 big episodes coming up. Yes.
That is true. Let me rephrase. Next week we have a big event.
It's a big week
going on during the show. It's a crossover event. The 11 O'Clockers, Vince. And I hope at this point I don't have to explain to everyone listening what they are, because if theoretically this is the first you're hearing of it, then you have about 36 hours from the time you listen to this to get your phones correlated. But nevertheless, next week we talk about our favorites of 2023 across all different types of categories. And, well, I'm not going to say where on the ballot that this book is going to be there, but I can spoil it and say that this book certainly is going to be on my ballot. And that is a book that I hope I'm pronouncing it right, because it's Arabic, but I believe it's Shubeik Lubeik. And that is Arabic for Your Wish is My Command. This is a graphic novel. It's over 500 pages, and it's a capital N novel, written and drawn by Deena Mohamed, who is an Egyptian cartoonist, and it is just magnificent, as you can imagine by the title. Right, Your Wish is My Command. This is in some way involving a genie, but what it really is it's set in modern day Cairo, Egypt. But it's an alt history kind of a place, so it's not our Cairo in that in this world magic is real, and it's basically like Vince was saying, art and commerce. It's basically commerce. Wishes are commerce. Just like you can buy a car, you can buy wishes in this world. But just like there's a difference between buying a used Miata off the local lot and McLaren, there are very different types of wishes, and those wishes are basically striated by economic value. So the average, low income family that really wants a wish, they're basically playing the monkey's paw game. In fact, the book opens up with just this very thing where a woman makes a wish to lose. She goes into like a bodega, whatever the Egyptian equivalent of a bodega is, and she buys this wish, and it's not in any kind of fancy bottle. It's in like a beer can. She opens the beer can up, and she wishes that she wants to lose 15 kilos off of her body because she's a bit portly. And of course, monkey's paw. The genie's like, "Your wish is my command," and her arm and her leg fall off. So it's like, so it kind of sets the tone that, like, wishes are like any other commodity in our real world, which is that you get what you pay for, right? And then wealthy people who can afford the high end stuff, they get like true wishes, beautiful bottles. They get the wish. It's pretty much interpreted as they intended it to be interpreted. So that's kind of the setup for like the world, but the story is really much more heartfelt than that. The story, it's three people get a wish each is basically how it's structured. But the story's centerpiece is a gentleman named Shockery, and he is the owner of a kiosk, like a newsstand, snack kiosk, like you'd see in any major city. And he's owned this kiosk forever and ever. And he's not a wealthy guy by any means, but he's a good person. And he sells like the cheap wishes, and he sells magazines and snacks or whatever. But he happens to have in his possession 3 of like the premium, that good shit, like that indie Kush wishes. Like he's got 3 of like the high end, like Bugatti of wishes. And we find out as the story goes how he came into possession of these, because these are way more valuable than he could ever afford. And you might be thinking, well, then why doesn't he use them? Well, he doesn't use them because he's Muslim, and in Islam, in this world that Deena has crafted, Islam doesn't just views using the wishes as going against the religion. So he won't use the wishes, but he's allowed to sell them. But the thing is he works, he owns this little teeny kiosk in like a poor part of Cairo, so no one's coming to my dude thinking he's got a Bugatti, right? Like they would think it's a knockoff. So he has trouble selling these wishes, but he has them for sale, and he eventually ends up selling them to these 3. We see the story of the 3 people that eventually get the wishes from him, and each is I won't go through them, but each is a wonderfully crafted and very very unique. With the first one is a widow. The second is a privileged, like super wealthy kid. They are non-binary and just going through life, not really clear on purpose, and they make the wish that they wish for, and I won't say what those wishes are. And then the third one is really about Shockery trying to figure out what to do with the last wish, because he just wants to be done with them. But again, he doesn't want to use it himself, and takes you, I think, just a wonderful ending that I just think was full of heart and really well thought out. But this book is such a triumph because it's a social commentary. It is a commentary about capitalism in general, class structure, but while those messages are right there for you to see, the book ultimately is this beautifully crafted book about heart, almost like a modern fairy tale, but with like modern morality embedded in it and some heart. I just thought it was terrific. And little things that Deena did in the book too for a first-time graphic novelist is massively impressive. Like she renders the genies as like this beautiful Arabic calligraphy. It's almost like the word coming to life, and then in between the 3 big chapters, she has these awesome interstitials that kind of take you through the history of this world. We find out in one of them how Shockery's father came into possession of these these high-end wishes many years before, and it was during an Indiana Jones like archaeological dig type of a thing. We in another interstitial we see the history of how wishes became weapons of socioeconomic power, and how certain countries have leveraged them to become more powerful, and like it's just little ways to fill out the world. And make it feel fully conceived instead of just getting a peek of it. Just amazing stuff. And Deena is very young. She's in her mid-20s, I think. And she, I think this book came out in 2018 originally in Egypt, and it was in Arabic. And so another cool thing about this is you read this like a manga, because Arabic also is right to left. So if you've ever read manga, it'll be an easy adjustment. But yeah, I thought it was just a beautiful book, and certainly one of the best things that I've read this year. Just awesome. So, Shubeik Lubeik.
I saw the title, and I said, I'm going to nickname this thing Shubi-Lubi.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean to demean it, but it just looks like Shubi-Lubi to me, and that's a good way to remember it.
There you go.
It does look like something I want to read.
Yeah, it's great too, because right, like we're always talking about how we want to, at least I want to have new experiences with comics. I want comics to surprise me and admittedly with our reading histories, it's harder and harder to ever be genuinely surprised or see something unique. So when I get a chance to, it really hits home. And I certainly knew next to nothing about Egyptian culture. I certainly have never read, to my knowledge, an Egyptian comic before. So, it's great to see another peek into the world, right? Like we're used to getting Italian imports and French bande dessinée and obviously manga being the most prevalent. But I hope we start seeing more and more, art and comic from places that we're not like typically familiar with. So that'd be great. Like I would love that. It's awesome.
Interesting. Well, I have something in your travels that would surprise you, but I don't believe you're reading it, and it's odd because it's pretty damn awesome. But I'll get to that. And remember, everybody, this episode has been sponsored by cheapgraphicnovels.com. It's all in the name. All you need to know: OGNs, trade paperbacks, omniboo, manga, all at drastically slashed prices. Go there, find something you like, order it. You're going to get an email confirmation. You're going to reply to the email confirmation saying 11 o'clock comics sent me, and you will be gifted with free shipping on your next order. And remember, we have a retooled Patreon, people. It's lean and mean and everything you always wanted but never had the stones to ask for. Patreon.com/11 o'clock comics. We only have we have 3 tiers. One is just a tip. But $5 a month will get you a bonus episode, right? $10 a month gets you access to the Slack, and everything that we used to put on the Patreon is now embedded into the Slack. Audios, videos, downloads, cover images, page images, everything, all the fun that we used to have on the Patreon and their lousy site has now been ported into the Slack, where it's much more efficient and user-friendly. So, plus you get to talk to people, like-minded individuals, about everything, not only comics, life, the universe, and everything within. So check out the Patreon page, patreon.com/11 o'clock comics. Did I do that right?
You sounded right to me, my friend.
All right. So in your travels, the book that Jason should be reading, but probably isn't, I got caught up on Q Hayashida's Die Dark. Are you reading Die Dark, Jason?
I have not read any Die Dark.
Oh, boy. Well, if you're looking for a book that is unlike anything out there, a surprising book, you should be reading Die Dark. I'm not going to get into it, in complexity. I've talked about it many times, but Hayashida revels in the minutia of the worlds they've crafted. The how and the why things work, the the crafting of meals, the process of sleep, traveling from place to place. All this stuff is detailed with wide-eyed wonder. Like, it's just an enjoyment of the process of things. And for a book as dark as this, like death and the byproducts of the process of death are the currency of this reality. Die Dark is surprisingly playful and comedic. Like, I have an example. There's a sequence in Volume 5 where the gang is taking a breather in a place called Dark Nest. It's kind of like a Mos Eisley between worlds. Like, it's a place where they can rest a bit and refuel and stock up on weapons or other things they'll need in their adventures, etc. They're at a place called Cafe Lightless. And Shimada Death, which is the self-proclaimed most powerful being in the universe, this is a lady who kills and then devours souls like a big old chicken leg. Like, just chomps on souls. So very, very dark. But they're sitting there around a table, and she's pummeling this Damimaru character, who also goes by the name of Hellmaster. She's pummeling him with questions. Like, a lot of stuff about this guy just does not add up. He can't seem to die. He keeps coming back from death. And his Paggy, again, not going to get into it, his Paggy Nagarun isn't like other Paggies. And she wants to know, like, everything about him. What's up with this dude? And she can detect if he's lying. And she tells him it's not really a threat because the guy will just come back. She's like, I will kill you if you lie to me. So they're having this round table. And while the back and forth is going on, Zaha Sanko, the main character of Die Dark, he orders something called a Nightfall Mochi. It's a dessert one can only find at the Cafe Lightness. This thing comes in two parts. One is an extended, like, diamond-shaped thing. If you ever saw Hellraiser 2, the Leviathan, the giant diamond thing, it's kind of shaped like that. And the other part is a pot of something called heat syrup. And as always, Hayashida, like, details the process of this dessert, which involves connecting the pot to the diamond-shaped thing, and there's a spike on the pot, and you slam down on the spike, and it inflates this dessert to the point where it ultimately explodes. And it showers everybody in proximity with these little shards of black, like, magic shell goop thing. And the dessert is this goopy, dark, taffy-like mass, which Sanko takes great joy in slurping, right? And there's this little, the ship is called Moja, and it's a giant pig-like ship with a pig's skull. It's very odd, very strange, but Moja is a diminutive replica of the ship. And Moja keeps exclaiming, "Ooh, it's so stretchy." And as this sequence goes on, they keep talking back and forth about, she's grilling Damimaru. Sanko keeps ordering more Nightfall Mokis. So there'll be a bit of dialogue, and you see him on the side, and the thing's inflating, and all of a sudden, boom, it blows up, and they're all covered with the little shards, and then they keep talking, and he orders another one, and it's like, the thing blows up again, and it happens, like, the comedic timing of this sequence is amazing. And I was just laughing my ass off, but my point being, it's in a book that's extremely dark. Everything in this book is... Dark flesh is at the soul of it. Dismemberment, death, just really unsavory things in this book. And yet the creator takes the time to do this little lighthearted sequence. And it's just a joy to read. It's lovely. But I shouldn't be using the word lovely in tandem with a book this dark. But there you go. That's the magic of Die Dark. It's just so different, so outside of the beaten path. It's amazing. If you haven't read it, I implore you to read Die Dark. I think it's from Seven Seas. Is it? Let me get the volume right here.
Sounds right.
Yeah, it's from Seven Seas. They were my publisher of the year last year in the Claskers. By Q Hayashida. It's amazing. It really is. It's one of my favorite things on the planet.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
Big talk.
And her illustration style is breathtaking. It's so scratchy and dark and expressive and loose, and it's just amazing. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Amazing.
It is amazing. There you go.
There you go. So I did get to catch up on a book by someone you heard earlier in this episode, and I think I'm really enjoying the second arc of Local Man. It's weird that how quickly very easy characters can just kind of change on you, or then eventually maybe show their true colors, or you get more information on them, and it may alter your feelings on them from when they originally appeared earlier in the issue. This second arc, which started with issue 6, following the events from Local Man Gold, the backups, the third gen sections of these issues shine some light on a character that Jack knows very well, and I did not see it coming, and I'm not sure really how I feel about it right now. But one of these issues is a bit more explicit than previous issues, which I had to I got a kick out of, and I had to compliment Tony. I had to shoot him a text after I got to that page. But I think, listen, if you aren't reading Local Man, you're doing yourself a disservice. It's a lot of fun. I want to say it's unlike any book on the stands, but it's based on it relies on books that you may be familiar with from the past, so it kind of straddles that line, and it's done really well. I think the mystery is, as Jack is pulling these threads, and we'll find out just how deep, how vast this conspiracy is. It's going to be quite eye opening. The psychedelics were interesting to watch play out. It's been a fantastic arc. Like I said, I kind of don't want it to end, but I almost feel bad when Jack realizes, or as he begins to realize what may have actually, what's going on, and what is going on, and this eighth issue, when the fourth wall breaking is just, oh my God, it's Deadpool can learn a few things. He's walking through ads. It's fantastic, and even the back covers, or the, not the homage, not the '90s Image variant covers, but the back cover for the backup, where it says Local Girl, and she's just basically like cut out of a photo, and then she's just like pasted herself into the image, into the rest of the cover. And she's just like completely, perspective is all wrong. She's just standing there in, like, her sweater with everything else. It's things like that just make me chuckle. But actually, seriously, if you aren't, you should be. I am sure Local Man will be on plenty of favorite lists for the O'Closkers, and as it should. But yeah, 100% in your travels. Read Local Man. I think the first trade is out soon.
I think it is out.
You got okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if it includes gold, but you've got the first 5 issues. You've got Local Man Gold, and now you've got up to issue 8. So it's not like you've got a lot to. We're not talking about Love and Rocket series. You're not going back years to catch up. And you're going to enjoy yourself when you do. It absolutely is a lot of fun. I think Tim and Tony are doing fantastic work here. Everybody involved should take a bow. It's crazy. It's funny. It's extremely well done, and it's an Image comic that actually feels human in spots, which you don't really get from a lot of Image books. So, yeah, in your travels, Local Man, Tim Seeley, Tony Fleece, Brad Simpson, get it.
It's got a dick pic.
And it's got a dick pic. I
Win-win.
told Tony, I says, you draw a fantastic starfish, my man.
Yep.
Indeed. I concur with everything you said. Nothing more to say. You dropped the mic, but I don't disagree at all. Dare I say, is it blasphemous to say I think it's Tony's best work to date?
See, this is the problem. We said it with Stray Dogs. We said, "Oh my God, how is Tony going to crawl out from under this hit?" I think it's going to take some doing for Tony and Tim to eclipse Local Man. It's going to take
I think so. Yeah, I mean, at least in terms of and it's not like we're talking out of school here. Tony knows this. It's just that a lot of the books that Tony spent a good chunk of his career on aren't. It's not that they're not well done. They're just not of my particular interest.
Sure, right.
Now, Stray Dogs is awesome. It's its own thing, but this is the book that he's worked on that I felt the most like. If I just didn't know who he was,
right,
I'd be like, "Damn, this guy's sounds legit." I gotta. So yeah. I hope that. I hope they get to finish the story, take as much time to finish the story as they need, right? You know what I mean? That the book sells well enough that they can just take the journey, whether that's another arc or another 30 issues, whatever they want to do. I just hope they don't have to let sales dictate the pace of it.
Exactly. Yeah. I think Feral's going to explode, but that's tied to the Stray Dogs success. And I don't think, it's going to survive and succeed on its own merit, but there's that echo of Stray Dogs still in the marketplace where it's going to be like, oh, you like this? You're going to love this. And we know, we've said it. Feral is a cut above Stray Dogs, but I think creatively, Local Man is Tony right now. Local Man's Tony's Watchmen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Tim's too, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Right?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I love Hack Slash, but Local Man is in 8 issues. Local Man has totally outdone Hack Slash.
Well, you know what? Actually, I'm probably Seeley and Norton had the long run on what was the name of that?
Revival.
Yes.
Yeah, Revival. That's probably their collectively seminal work to date.
Yeah, I like Local Man better, but
Revival went on for 40 issues, I think.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, it's 3 hardcovers, 3 oversized hardcovers.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I'll try and keep this tight in your travels. I was, if you recall, at the opening of the show, Hazel the Rabbit, which should have been a clue to all of you folks that weren't born in this century, because then you might not know what the hell I'm talking about. But if you were born in the last century, like we were, because we old, you probably know that Hazel the Rabbit is one of the lead protagonists in the wonderful Richard Adams story Watership Down.
Yeah, fucking brutal.
Yep.
Yeah, and the Watership Down is just definitely a generational thing, right? I mean, it was written in the early 70s, and it felt like a book because of the age cohort that we were, that a lot of kids in school, ourselves included, were introduced to read. Then, of course, the animated film came out around in the 70s as well, which again, I think we all kind of saw as we were kids, I'm sure, multiple times. So always very fond of it. It's so weird that the memories you have. I remember checking this out of the library. I can remember that memory, and I was probably not even 10 years old. I have vivid memories, in particular, of checking this book out of the library, which is pretty trippy. But yeah, so lo these many years later, it's been turned into a graphic novel adaptation, beautifully drawn by Joe Sutphin and written, adapted, I should say, by James Sturm from Richard Adams' book. It is much like the prose book. It is a long, long book. It is 382 pages of wonderful illustration, and I have to say that. Trying to draw non-anthropomorphic rabbits where you have dozens of different characters and not making it cartoony enough where they don't look like rabbits anymore, and being able to draw that where you can figure out who's stalking and not getting confused is an incredibly difficult task. But he pulls it off. Sutphin pulls it off. I mean, the majority of these rabbits are the same species, so they look pretty much the same, like maybe a little bit different size ears, maybe a little bit of a different snout. But the ability to tell them apart without being confused is really done through the way that Sutphin structures the panel layouts and the flow, and he does a great job with it. I really felt like I never was at a loss for who we were hearing from or what they were, what was going on, and it's awesome. But Sutphin's art, for those that don't know, it's done here very, very like illustrative, like almost like an illustrated educational book type of a thing. Just like a shade cartoony, just in that it's but based on lifelike. I mean, it's really like it's much closer to like lifelike illustrative work than it is like a Looney Tunes kind of a look, if people are wondering. But it doesn't look like European bande dessinée cell animation. This is a much more muted, pencil-heavy style. So, but just awesome. I mean, I hope I'm not going to get into the story of Watership Down. Like we said, it's a very long story. It's basically, though, at its heart, a bunch of rabbits have to leave their home because of human interloping, and they have to go on a journey to find a new home. And it's kind of like The Walking Dead. Like they make multiple stops, but sometimes the stop they think is the new home ends up having its own danger and they have to keep going. And it's just a beautiful look at community and life and the transient nature of like immigrants and the journey they have to go on to find. It's beautiful. It's allegorical and just a wonderful adaptation. So if that story in any of its versions means anything to you and you love comics, I really think you'll enjoy Watership Down, the graphic novel. And I should shout out who the publisher is. It is 10-Speed Graphics. So that's not a publisher I'm previously familiar with, but hopefully this is a sign of what's to come because they did a great job with it.
Yeah, that's the animated feature traumatized generations of kids.
For sure.
I show it in my class, animation for the illustrator, and it just if most of the students haven't seen it, and they walk out of that class like, what in the hell did you just expose us to?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, everybody. Hey, remember, twice a week, my people. So this is going to be, here's the schedule for those of you who don't know, which is probably all of you. New episodes on Friday and Tuesday. There you go, twice a week. So join us. We hope you stick around. We hope you come back for more. Get yourselves to a comic book shop, buy some books, talk about them online, come to our Facebook page, come to our show, because we'll probably be talking about the books you bought. And in the meantime, say goodnight. Turquoise? What's his name? Samuel? No, it's David.
Oh, good night.
Gillicuddy.
Gillicuddy.
I heard that McGillicuddy's all up in them guts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Love it. Bye, people.
Peace. Douches.
That's it for that one.